You're right, yeah. They were, and the more recent ones were easy to do. There's a game that's not, I don't think it's an incredibly well known game, but Advent Rising. It's got lovely music, beautifully recorded and orchestrated orchestral music. Now that pretty much, when I came to look at the tracks we had from that was a takedown. I mean, I just transcribed it, and there wasn't much translating needing to be done. And as the further back I got, the more improvements, really, to be honest, or the more making it, properly orchestral needed to be done. Right back to I did a version of the Tetris theme. Obviously, I mean that doesn't exist in an orchestral form, so I've orchestrated it. So you've got the full spectrum there. You've got ones that I pretty much haven't touched, other than if I had any slightly better ideas of the orchestration, I would put them in. Because sometimes when you hear how someone else orchestrated it, you go, yeah, that's brilliant. Actually, you could do that as well. Some of them are pretty much the same as the original, and the further back you get, obviously they get more and more dissimilar from the original, and I had to do something with it. Yeah, that's fine. I think probably at the moment the balance is on the stolen side rather than the giving back, and that's my impression of it from listening to it. I mean, it is full of references to other music. It's incredibly derivative, and I don't think yet it's giving. Well, on the stuff I've been listening to, which bear in mind is I have been ignoring the stuff that is non-orchestral. So I mean, there are a lot of games out there now which use bands, don't they? And rock track to it, or and maybe even there's some games with completely electronic stuff. I mean, Eamon Tobin's done some music for a game called Rabble Rouser, and that is, I'm an Eamon Tobin fan, so I love that, but that isn't orchestral, so ignoring that, as far as orchestral music goes, it's probably given nothing back, I would say, but it's very hard to give anything back to orchestral music these days. I mean, you think of the body of music for the orchestra in classical music, and then you add on to that what's been done in film. It's quite hard to imagine what it could give back orchestrally. So probably what it might end up giving back, in the way that modern film music has given back, if you're using that term, is the mixture between synths and real instruments and sound design. I mean that's been done very well in modern films, better than it's been done, in the classical tradition, I think, or more listenable to anyway. That's been done well in film. Interesting, the way they've sort of mixed that all together. And I suppose video games are doing the same thing as that, starting to do the same thing as that. I don't know if they do anything different from film or. So yeah, I'm afraid I think at the moment it's a bit one-sided there. They're taking rather than giving, but I tell you the problem with giving advice to aspiring composers or people that want to do something similar to you is that when you look back, it's so incoherent and random. I mean, how things happen, what things turned out to be important for the beginning. That it's very difficult to sort of translate that all back and say, yes, what you should be doing is X, Y, Z. Because it just wasn't like that. So, and also I think it's difficult because the industry moves on quite quickly. So most people have to work it out for themselves because it's just different. So I'm not making excuses, but I hate doing that, but the main thing I would say is, someone told me once that there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. And so then boringly, people who've done this for quite a long time tend to go and give advice all about being well organised, putting the hours in when you have to, so that you turn up the next day better prepared than the next person. And I'm afraid more than the sort of musical stuff, which is quite personal, isn't it? Sort of how your own musical language develops, and I mean that side of things is so important because you'll get more chances. People will give you more jobs. You'll work with better musicians. You'll get more chances to do stuff like this, and then your music will develop. I think it's pretty important as well to, as quickly as possible, move from that kind of college state where you have to kind of absorb everything, you have to sort of like everything. You do need to get that focus quite quickly because people need to know what you're about. I'm not being very good at that, so so this is advice from someone who wasn't very good at it, but I was interested in lots of different things. It took me a long time to kind of work out what my the big things for me were. I could almost feel like I could turn my hand to lots of different music. I could get interested in lots of things, and eventually I think you have to go, this is my primary thing, because otherwise, when those meetings happen, when people say, who should we get to do this? And this is how it will work. People sit around the table and go, who should we get in? Who could conduct let's take this example. Who could conduct the LPO? And we could trust them with the orchestra in the festival hall, but at the same time could do a slightly more unusual programming. It won't be Marlowe, it'll be sort of video game. Who would get both? Who would get that? And the only thing you can do in our position is to make sure you're one of the names that's mentioned in that situation. You can't guarantee you're going to get it. You can't guarantee you're going to be the person that they choose. But I think you can guarantee you're one of the people that they mention. And then when you get offered the job, if you've been doing your homework beforehand and you've been taking lots of other small projects, so it's not the first time that you have to use a copyist. It's not the first time that you have to deal with a recording. There's always first times for everything, but ideally not the first time when it's a really big project. So best if you've done said yes to lots of stuff that doesn't, like we all did, lots of stuff that doesn't pay very well, and get involved with other stuff, so that when the bigger opportunities come along, you're not totally you've done the preparation. That's the luck bit. Preparation meets opportunity. So you don't think, and we all cop things up. I mean, I made a mistake with one track on this, which I'm sort of A, regretting choosing, B, I'm regretting saying I'll definitely do it, so now the composer's coming to the concert to hear it, so I can't get out of playing it. C, I wish I hadn't mucked about with it in the orchestration, because I've now made it kind of a sort of Frankenstein's monster. So we all still make mistakes, and I have to still figure out what to do about that track, and that never stops. But the other advice is I suppose, is just about kind of having a vague idea at least where you're heading with stuff, because that helps you to make decisions. I think it's okay to be a little random about where you're heading with a career. Yes, maybe. I mean, I need someone to ask me to do it, which means, so this is partly one of the things I'm looking at my manager is this might be an opportunity to sort of get into that, and it would be interesting. In the autumn, I've got a film that I wrote the music for last year coming in the London Film Festival, which is a documentary feature film, which is my music. I've got a film in the London Film Festival which I orchestrated and conducted, so I'm kind of more plugged into that side, the film thing and TV. I do a lot of TV music. Never done anything with video games at all, and there is an expertise needed for that. My friend Richard Jakes, who does a lot of stuff here, and we're doing one of his James Bond track. We're doing, well, that's what I was saying. We're going to try and rehearse today. He's done it for years. He used to work for Sega. 15 years ago, he worked for Sega. So I wouldn't pretend that I necessarily had all the skills for video game, the actual technical side. But you can learn that. You can get someone who's done it before. It would be fun. It would be fun to write a video game, and I'll have to see who comes along to the concert that I can then twist their arm to let me do that. There's a hell of a lot of music though. I mean, I know Anisin Sawhney did a video game, and it was hours of music. It's really it's a tough gig, I think, to write that many hours of music, and the budgets are good, but they're not so good that you're going to be in the studio for endlessly. I mean, you've got to get through it quickly. So it would be a mammoth job. Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Would you write video games?
I would love to actually. It's one of my ambitions. If I get good enough, then I would love to give it a go.
What? Well, you've got to come and help me then, so you can do all the clever stuff, and I'll just write a few big
I would love to do that. I would actually love to.